Hello, I'm Michelle Ruiz. I want to share some thoughts with you about what we've learned about the anti-Semitism that we've seen occurring on university campuses across the United States and the congressional hearings. And the highlights for employers, which by the way include universities themselves, are essentially these. The first is, during a very recent, I think it's the 4th or 5th congressional hearing, one of the chancellors acknowledged that the faculty and staff at the university could likely benefit from having anti-Semitism training. I think that's probably a recommendation that's applicable across the board. As a standard, I know that there is some discussion about making anti-Semitism training a requirement for incoming students as well, but that's a bit far off. But at the very minimum, one takeaway is that likely a benefit to deploy anti-Semitism training to faculty and staff. The second piece is also enhance that with implicit bias training, because anti-Semitism in some instances is related to implicit bias. Now, some of it, of course, is overt racist behavior and actions, but sometimes it's just actions and behaviors based on belief systems, and people may not even realize that they're expressing anti-Semitism. So the additional takeaway about that is enhanced implicit bias training. The next thing is accountability and also policy reviews. So accountability based on when you have individuals acting in a way where they're expressing anti-Semitism, and we can include Islamophobia in this as well. What we're really talking about is accountability for when it leads into microaggressions, bullying, harassment, and other types of behavior that would not normally be tolerated in workplaces. And so accountability, first of all, recognizing that under the umbrella of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia for that matter, that these behaviors and actions can arise in categories that we typically know of as microaggressions, bullying, harassment, those kinds of things. So defining what those behaviors are and also holding people accountable for when they're violating conduct codes, whether it's in an employment or obviously in a university. The other thing is policy review. Now, this is clearly an issue that most, if not all, universities are taking the summer to take a look at. What are their policies with respect to free speech versus hateful acts? And that also has to do with related to protests, time. You've heard of time, location, those kinds of things. So that's probably a takeaway not only for all universities, but perhaps even employers, not necessarily for protests or peaceful demonstrations, but generally speaking, is there a benefit by looking at policies to clear them up or make them more specific in certain instances? And then the other piece is teaching about inclusive practices and what does that look like. And inclusion really and belonging should focus on not just faith and ethnicities, but also being open-minded to people of different perspectives. And so those are, some of the key takeaways that we've learned as a result of the, widespread protests that we have seen on college campuses. And I'm pleased to say that those are areas that we can help you with my companies. And so if any of you are interested on learning more, we focus on helping employers, companies, organizations, government, federal, local, state, etc., private entities with respect to these areas. But most important, I wanted to give you some things to think about what we've learned that we can apply in looking forward in terms of how we look at our workplaces, and if there's anything that we should be doing to course correct, or at least at the very minimum, perhaps make some changes.